Calaroga Shark Media.
This is one of those days where I couldn't wait to get the mic. I'm telling you, I taped this right after I recorded Tuesday's show because I couldn't wait. So if you're like Johnny Mac, Dave Chappelle and Jerry Seinfeld had a street brawl, how come we're not talking about it? If that happened, I'll do it as a bonus episode. The Sebastian Maniscalco thing has me out of my mind. But there's even one more thing before that I want to go first. Did I say hi? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, Daily Comedy News. You figured all that out already. Let's do this a little Cornac. Red Fox, Rick James, and Buckwheat. Red Fox, Rick James, and Buckwheat. You see, there's this new Eddie Murphy documentary that I don't even think I mentioned yesterday. It was so packed. That's out on Netflix. We're going to have a ton of Eddie Murphy press this week. He'll be out making the rounds, and I'm sure I'll do a lot of Eddie stories as the week goes on. But this headline was too good. Red Fox, Rick James, and Buckwheat. Eddie Murphy told USA Today, "I've paid for a lot of funerals, but I don't go to funerals." Eddie, who's 64 now, which is just terrifying because he used to be 19 back when I was 13. Eddie revealed that he has paid for the funerals of Red Fox, Rick James, purchased tombstones for William Buckwheat Thomas Jr., who you may know from the Little Rascals / Our Gang / Eddie playing a version of that character on SNL, and Tim Moore, who played Kingfish on Amos and Andy. Eddie shared he'd only attended 2 funerals in his life. The first was for his biological father, Charles Edward Murphy, and for his stepfather, Vernon Lynch. Eddie said, "They shouldn't even have funerals." I'm like, "This funeral is morbid. The whole people in attendance, seeing your loved one out there, emotionally, the whole ritual is too much." So no judgment here. I'm just observing that implies Eddie did not attend the funeral of his brother, Charlie Murphy. Eddie said he plans to be cremated when his time comes. I'm on that same boat. Eddie says, "When I kick out, I'm not having no funeral and be laying up there and people coming and looking at me, lowering me on the ground, and there's no funeral and there's no memorial, none of that stuff. Just keep it rolling, none of that trauma. It's way too much a funeral." I agree. Eddie doesn't care what happens with his ashes. He says, "I don't give an F what they do with them, just as long as you don't have people standing around with my ashes. I'm not trying to be in the urn while everybody's crying. I don't want to have that moment." Okay. Sebastian Maniscalco's trailer. Johnny Mac, you've been screaming about it for 2 days. How bad could it be? Well, I'm going to play it for you, but I need you to understand. Why don't you go to the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group, where I posted this trailer, because what you're not going to see here on this audio podcast is just the stupid faces Sebastian is making to sell these jokes. I mean, like, hacks are like, "Oh my God, are you a hack?" This is just unbelievable. Now, I'll play you the material. The material is not great, but when you add on the stupid faces, this is just atrocious. So this has me wondering, is Hilarious where comedy acts go to die? Like Bill Burr went on Hilarious and handed in his worst special. Gaffigan's special was not his best. Is Hilarious not the place for good comedy? Is Hilarious where you go when you're on your way down? Is that what Hilarious is? I'm out of my mind at this trailer. So I've made a couple edits here because there's a lot of music and you don't need to hear the music. I'll leave the comedy parts alone, but please understand, you're not seeing the horrific faces. Go to the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News. Did I say YouTube earlier? It's a Facebook group. Daily Comedy News Podcast Group on Facebook. Daily Comedy News Podcast Group on Facebook. I have posted this trailer. You have to see how bad it is, but let's listen.
I have a mild case of sleep apnea. This is where I'm at. I'm gonna duct tape my mouth shut so I don't pass away in my sleep. If someone came to rob my house, they would look at me and go, "Someone was already here. Let's go." I went to a drugstore today. I took out cash. By the way, you take out cash nowadays like kryptonite. This kid was in his early 20s. He's like, "What is that?" I said, "It's money. It's used for goods and services." Some people do Venmo. Maybe you went out to dinner, somebody paid, and then the rest of the group said, "No, we'll Venmo you later." No, you pay me now. You ever look at Jeff Bezos 30 years ago? The guy was a complete nerd. You take a look at Bezos now, ripped to shreds on his super yacht in the Mediterranean, and the boxes keep coming. Went to the doctor, nurse comes in, she's like, "We're gonna need some urine." Gotta tell you people something, my sample, beautiful. I put mine next to a guy's that look like scotch. I'm not handing in root beer as a sample.
I mean, geez, Louise, Sebastian, what is going on with that? Not good, not good. All right, let's stop off on Gossip Corner. One of the Facebook group members sent me this one on the side. This was on Instagram. Somebody on Instagram goes by the handle McCoy Gen Fan. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is according to McCoy Gen Fans. So this may not be true at all. This is not news. This is Gossip Corner. McCoy Gen Fan said of Nikki Glaser's controversial SNL appearance, and I assume this is during Good Nights. I'll have to go look at this. The musical guest standing next to her, but she had to turn around and approach and impose herself on the cast. I saw Chloe Fineman roll her eyes to another cast member when she looked in Nikki's direction. Historically, if the SNL cast ostracizes the host after the episode, that means it bombed and they didn't like them. Nikki proved history right. All right, now I have this on the DVR. I'm going to pause my recording and look at this myself. Be right back. Well, to you, I'll be back in half a second. Okay, it is a half second later. I have here on my phone the YouTube TV app, where we don't get the Disney channels, no ABC. We don't support fascism on the YouTube app. I'm going to hit play here, so you'll kind of hear it. It should sound like a guy playing Saturday Night Live on his phone. That is what it should sound to you. This is not the usual audio rips I do, and I'll do a little play-by-play here. Let's see, okay. I have it paused. There's a still card of Nikki Glaser. I'm 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 54 seconds into a file that is 1:35:05. I'm going to hit play here. Let's see what happens. All right, there's Nikki in the middle. All right, and we're zooming out, and no one is approaching Nikki. All right, she hugged Somber, I guess, and yeah, no one wants to talk to Nikki Glaser at all. Oh wow, this is awkward. Wow. All right, you got to actually see this for yourself if you have a way to see it. No one approaching her at all, and that's it. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, now I'm going to go to the previous week and see what happened. Be back in half a second. Okay, I'm back. I tried to look at the Miles Teller episode, which is also 1:35:05, but it seems to get cut off before the Good Night. So here I have queued up here Sabrina Carpenter's episode from 3 weeks ago. And we are 1:32:20 into a file that's 1:33:46. As I hit play here, she's center stage with the cast standing in a very similar formation to the Nikki episode. Sabrina was her own musical guest, so there's not a musical guest with her. And let me hit play here. Let's see what happens.
And that's our show. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to Lauren. Thank you to the amazing cast and crew. This has been one of my biggest dreams, and I'm so grateful. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for laughing, and thank you for being such an amazing audience. And I hope you have a great night tonight.
Okay, no one approaching her yet. Let's see. She's just in the middle. She's walking back. Now she is being hugged by cast members. And it got cut off for an NBA promo. So I'm not sure I have enough evidence there, but the Nikki Glaser does seem a little awkward. The San Francisco Gate went with this headline: Fired SNL comic jokes about the Warriors and Nancy Pelosi at San Francisco set. You know who the fired SNL comic is? Shane Gillis. Is that what his resume is? Just forever? Just that he was invited to the cast, disinvited, and he's now been on the show twice, so it seems like we're all over it. And it's not like he played the Riyadh Comedy Festival. We're really just going to call Shane Gillis fired SNL comic forever? I guess we are. The SF Gate writes, as tens of thousands descended on the Chase Center, blowing vape smoke and chugging last-minute Bud Lights, it's easy to forget what an odd route headliner Shane Gillis has taken to the top of the comedy industry. They remind us in 2019, Gillis was hired and probably fired by SNL. If you listen to me every day, you're probably familiar with that. I will skip ahead. Early into his hour-long set, Shane Gillis said, "This will all end soon." The Gate tells us Gillis referenced his friendship with Joe Rogan and made jokes about pedophilia, Black Lives Matter, and people with Down syndrome. But no one at the Chase Center walked out or so much as booed their displeasure. Gillis apparently was approving of the crowd's stomach for his more controversial material and said, okay, you guys can F around a little. The Gate says, for what it's worth, the only I've heard at a Bay Area comedy show were when Dave Chappelle brought out Elon Musk. Gillis told a joke about going to a pride parade. It did not go over, and he said that one might have been more transphobic than funny, which is a great way to recover. We're told Gillis was a welcome relief after his two openers, James McCann and Tommy Pope, slogged their way through tired jokes about the WNBA and San Francisco's gay population. They add, it's hard to get an exact read on Gillis's politics. He freely admits he looks like the kind of person who'd resegregate schools, but he's taken as many shots at the right as he does the left. Jim Gaffigan got a major wax job by Variety while Johnny Mac was on a plane the other day. By the way, I forgot to mention yesterday's show. If you are traveling, be ready. Just be ready. My flight home took off at 2:20 a.m. That was not the plan. It's a mess out there. When we landed at Newark, I counted, there were 2 runways. I counted on the closer runway, 25 planes waiting to take off. The other runway had more than 25. I would guess 40 or so just waiting. Because, you leave your gate, so your flight is technically on time. The departure's on time. The arrival, that's the arrival airport's problem. But we took off from gate B73. We're good here. What a mess. Stay home. Wax job for Jim Gaffigan from Variety. They write, if Tom Hanks is known as the everman of movies, the ordinary guy, so approachable and unpretentious that just about anybody can relate to him in one way or another, then Jim Gaffigan is the everyman of comedy. Are they saying that Tom Hanks wouldn't call you back if you helped him early in his career? Is that what they're saying about Tom Hanks? That's not cool. Tom Hanks, if somebody had you on their radio show when you weren't that well known, and you would come up, and then suddenly you were too good to come up, people would say you were a jerk, Tom Hanks. I hope that's not true. That would be awful if that were true of Tom Hanks. I can't believe Tom Hanks would behave that way. Pause, because host is making himself laugh. Jim Gaffigan focuses his humor on everyday observations about universal experiences. Jim said of the current climate, not the actual climate, the political climate, Jim said, I think this will go down in history, and it may be ending as we speak, but this is the best time that stand-up comedy has ever had. When I started, versus even at the time of Lenny Bruce or George Carlin, comedy was a much more middle-class, lower-middle-class occupation, meaning there wasn't an expectation of upper-middle-class existence. Now, if you're a functional comedian, you can make a great living. So from a monetary standpoint, like having a kind of financial security, it would never exist, but it exists now. Jim talked about not putting politics in the act, but used the pandemic as an example. And he said there were expectations that you can address it, but we've gone through the pandemic. We don't want to hear too much about it. There are comedians that will have very strong views, have a formula bringing up this hot button issue. Their audience will stay with them. They'll have some brilliant insights surrounding it. But I'm kind of the opinion, people, they want to live in denial, but they also want to break from it. I think that might be majorly informed by the one time Jim did get political on Twitter and got a lot of comments in his general direction. The article then gets a lot of run from Caroline Hirsch, who seems to be pretty tight with the Variety folks. Caroline's getting a lot of press during this festival. Anyway, Jim Gaffigan, wax job in Variety. And Bill Burr, still getting a lot of work despite playing the Riyadh Comedy Festival. It doesn't seem to have messed him up at all. He was even nominated for a Grammy Award. Well, Bill Burr is joining the cast of Bender, a coming-of-age comedy which is going to film in Ireland next spring. It's described as Superbad meets Derry Girls. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Yeah, Bender is based on the late 70s punk Dublin coming-of-age experiences of Adrian Cunningham, who wrote the script. The story unfolds around the frenzy surrounding the impending visit by the Pope. Bill Burr plays a gruff American record store owner who convinces a ragtag gang of teenage misfits that their best and possibly only chance to lose their virginity before graduating high school is at a massive open-air mass for visiting the Pope. You just imagine this? Hey, you want to get laid? You got to go see the Pope, okay? Like that? Is that what Bill Burr's doing now? Okay. Johnny Mac, you are feisty today. I told you the Sebastian trailer really wound me up. I had to record back-to-back. All right, New York Comedy Festival continues. Let's see if the website's working today. John, you said you taped back-to-back episodes. You know that the website's working. You just used it 10 minutes ago. Look, go with the bit, will you? I'm not reading 50 things like I did on yesterday's podcast. Let's look for big names. Here, I'll make this easy. No. That's 10. No. Todd Glass. No. Alex Borstein at 7:30 at the Bell House. Mike Kaplan at QED Astoria at 7:30. I mean, Mike's pretty solid and probably the best comic I've mentioned in a couple days, and he's doing Queens, and I'm from Queens. I'm allowed to insult Queens. No. Boy, this is just, it's just off this year. Maddie Smith at 9:15. No. Chris Gethard at 10 o'clock at the UCB. Comics to watch Unrepped at 10. Leonard Utz at 10:30. I mean, he's really good, but nobody knows who that is. And that's your Wednesday at the New York Comedy Festival. Well, let's do this one, because Wednesday is trivia night. Now, I know the trivia guys listen. I know I haven't been there. Not that it really matters. The trivia guys, they've got this whole business going on. The place is so crowded. We're at the point of the Yogi Bear line of nobody goes there. It's too crowded. The trivia guys got it rocking. I mean, I have to leave my house like an hour and a half before trivia to make sure I get my table in the corner. So trivia guys, I know you listen. I appreciate you listening. I feel bad I haven't been there. It's just been such a busy, crazy month. So my plan is to be there this evening. But I saw this story, and I was thinking maybe we should combine forces from LA Magazine, Comedy Club The Crow in Santa Monica. I should have hit it when I was out there over the weekend. I had a very busy weekend. They have Trivial Comedy, an intense, hilarious new show for stand-up lovers, fun fact enthusiasts, and everyone in between. All right, how does this work? Each show welcomes 5 comedians, each do a 10-minute set around a classic pub trivia category like arts and entertainment or sports. Between the comedian sets, the hosts ask the audience trivia questions. Trivia guys, we got to combine. We'll talk to the brewery folks. Set up shop on a Saturday night. There's a thing here. First place wins $50. Best team name gets a free beer. I don't know how we'll decide who has the best team name. And it won't be me, because I'm just going to use the team name I use every week. Audience members can play in teams up to 4. One of the hosts said, I've seen people who don't know each other, but join teams together just because they want maximum power. As a trivia expert who often finishes in 10th place, here's what you got to do. You can't just have a bunch of guys in their late 50s, early 60s. That doesn't work. You got to have one of the guys bring their 20-something-year-old daughter, and then she gets like 5 extra points because the trivia guys, they'll ask what I call the Ariana Grande questions that we just don't know. But when daughter comes, then you get those points, and those are the weeks that you do okay, and you get a t-shirt or a hat or a growler. And I'll leave you with this. Comedian Catherine Ryan got in some trouble. She was on the original UK version of Have I Got News for You, and she called Sir David Beckham the C word. Yeah. She was hosting the show. The conversation turned to Sir Beckham being knighted by King Charles. I'm sure you listen to the Palace Intrigue podcast that I write for, and you know all about that story. If you don't, Palace Intrigue, wherever you get your shows. Apparently, in the past, Sir Beckham was upset that he hadn't been knighted and had called the Honors Committee unappreciative C words and said it was a disgrace that they'd been snubbed from the New Year's Honors list. However, now that he's a knight, comedian Maisie Adam was on the panel and said it would have been nice and maybe poetic if Charles had gotten his own back knighting him and going, "Arise, you C word." Catherine Ryan tagged it with, I don't know if we're allowed to broadcast the C word, but you did reference Victoria Beckham earlier, and we'll allow that. Ouch! And that's your comedy news for today. Bye.